He spent his life building dreams for others, while his wife and best friend were secretly tearing his world apart. They planned everything: the divorce, the custody, the company takeover. But they forgot one thing: he's an architect. And now, he's about to design their downfall with the same precision he builds skyscrapers. The late afternoon sun filtered through the tall windows of Lawrence Sullivan's minimalist home office in Portland, Oregon. His hands moved with meticulous precision across the architectural plans sprawled on his desk. A cultural arts center that would be the crowning jewel of Sullivan's studio group. The lines were clean, the vision bold. If successful, it would be his firm's defining legacy. But the sting of Herman Knox's mishandling of the last client pitch still lingered in his mind. Just as Lawrence reviewed the cantilever alignment, his phone vibrated. The ringtone, an old Guns N' Roses tune, had been chosen by his daughter, Lena. She was meant to be relaxing at their lakeside vacation home in Silver Pines Lake with her mother, Patricia, and younger brother, Ethan. He answered quickly. "Everything okay, sweetheart?" Her voice trembled. "Dad, I saw something bad." The plans under his hands stilled. His heart started to race. Lena's voice lowered, barely a whisper. "Mom's with Uncle Herman. They're saying things about you, things I shouldn't have heard. And they were doing things too. I recorded it. I'm sending it to you." Moments later, a video pinged into his inbox. Lawrence opened it with shaking hands. The footage was damning. Patricia in the living room of their vacation house, draped across Herman's lap, laughing, drinking wine. Their conversation struck harder than the betrayal itself. Lawrence is always at that office, building other people's dreams while his family fades into the background, Patricia said with scorn. Herman chuckled. The more he ignores his kids, the easier it'll be to win full custody. And the clients already like me more. They think Lawrence is too intense. Once we control the firm, everything else falls into place. Lawrence's expression hardened. These weren't careless words between illicit lovers. This was a strategic ambush, a methodical dismantling of everything he had built. Another message appeared, this time from Ethan. The boy, only 11, had been using his laptop to stream games. The machine had picked up hours of background footage. In those clips, Patricia and Herman plotted like conspirators. They discussed bank account transfers, legal positioning, even tampering with shared calendars to make Lawrence seem like a neglectful father. Missed baseball games, no-shows at school meetings, all fabrications carefully designed to support their narrative. And then, a final shock. A series of screenshots Lena had found on her mother's phone. Deleted messages, altered dates, and school communications deliberately hidden from Lawrence. A pattern of psychological manipulation was laid bare. Every absence had been scripted, every error manufactured. The doorbell rang. Lawrence's eyes lifted to the security feed. A sleek black sedan was parked in his circular drive. The woman stepping out was none other than Camille Rhodes, Herman's wife and one of Oregon's most formidable family law attorneys. Lawrence met her at the door with a tight nod. Camille, usually immaculate in presentation, looked rushed. Her blazer was askew, her hair windblown. Without waiting for an invitation, she stepped inside, holding a thick stack of documents. "Your daughter called me," she said. "Found my number in your emergency contacts." Lawrence led her to his office. "How much do you know?" "Enough," she replied, laying out contracts, bank statements, notarized forms. "I've been watching Herman for weeks. What your children sent me today confirmed everything. They're not just cheating. They're executing a hostile takeover of your firm, your family, your life." The room fell silent as Lawrence reviewed the materials. Camille continued, her tone sharper. "They've been strategic. Herman's been planting seeds inside the company. Patricia's been isolating you from your children while documenting every minor slip to make you look negligent. But now we have a counter-strategy." Her words struck like iron. There would be no emotional collapse. No pleas for reconciliation. Lawrence wasn't a man who broke easily. He was an architect. He understood foundations. And he saw clearly now. His had already been under attack for months. Camille placed one more file in front of him. We begin by protecting your assets. Then we move to secure full custody. The documentation your kids gathered, it's gold. Judges detest parental alienation. She leaned in, her voice firm. You ready to fight back? Lawrence's jaw tensed. I don't just want to fight back, he said. I want to make sure they can never do this to anyone else. As the evening shadows lengthened over the Portland skyline, two betrayed spouses sat in a quiet office, drafting the opening lines of a battle plan. Outside, the world continued unaware. But inside that room, vengeance was being refined. Not out of spite, but out of a need to restore truth, protect family, and rebuild stronger than ever. And far away in Silver Pines Lake, Patricia and Herman poured wine by the fire, laughing about their upcoming fresh start. They had no idea that their children were watching, recording, documenting, and that the reckoning had already begun. By dawn, Lawrence Sullivan's home office had transformed into a command center. Screens displayed overlapping files. Legal templates, financial records, security footage, digital logs from his children. Camille Rhodes, now dressed in crisp navy slacks and a neutral blouse, moved efficiently between stacks of documentation. Her expertise was undeniable. What Herman and Patricia had underestimated was just how far Camille was willing to go when her family was betrayed, and how powerful an ally she could be when fueled by righteous resolve. The children had remained vigilant through the night. Lena's updates arrived in short bursts. Screenshots, timestamps, whispers from a bedroom she pretended to be asleep in. Ethan's laptop continued streaming footage through a secure cloud link. Every careless moment from Patricia and Herman was being captured. Their wine-fueled conversations, jokes at Lawrence's expense, their future plans made with arrogant confidence. At 6:47 a.m., a new recording revealed Herman referencing the Tokyo contract and speaking confidently about securing the penthouse Patricia had once admired. Their tone dripped with assurance that custody and control of the firm would soon be theirs. Patricia emphasized Lawrence's workaholic nature as an advantage for them in court. Camille noted the importance of this recording. It would support an emergency motion for custody. Lawrence stayed silent but focused. His children weren't just gathering evidence, they were actively fighting for him. That knowledge anchored him. Later in the morning, Ethan managed to access Herman's work email using his unlocked phone. What they discovered was damning. Client communications rerouted, altered proposals, and fee adjustments without Lawrence's consent. Herman had not only betrayed Lawrence personally, he had sabotaged his professional integrity as well. Camille reviewed the data and confirmed that it revealed deliberate conspiracy. Patricia's tablet offered more fuel to their case. Draft statements, manipulative messaging prepared for court, and private conversations suggesting how she planned to distort Lawrence's character. Every discovery deepened Lawrence's understanding of the extent of the deception. No longer fueled by raw emotion, he processed each revelation with clinical focus. Camille, sensing his shift from shock to strategy, signaled it was time to act. The team moved fast. Legal motions were filed, financial safeguards initiated, and digital assets secured. Camille reached out to court contacts to expedite the process. Lawrence's trusted security chief, Don Harper, arrived that afternoon with his team. A former university roommate and lifelong ally, Don brought both technical precision and a personal stake. His own sister had suffered from similar workplace sabotage. Don confirmed the patterns matched what his cybersecurity firm had already flagged. He had prepared measures for immediate deployment, ensuring that once the operation began, there would be no room for resistance. Lena's final report came just before evening. Patricia and Herman had left for dinner, giving them a clear operational window. Don's team took control of the vacation home systems, securing devices and backing up all relevant data. Financial transfers were tracked and frozen. Herman and Patricia's entire network of deception was now mapped. Every step, every timestamp, every lie. By late afternoon, Lawrence stood before the evidence wall. A visual map of betrayal now transformed into a blueprint for justice. In a quiet message from Ethan, the boy reported that the first phase was complete. Lawrence absorbed the moment. His life had nearly been rewritten behind his back. But now he was the one holding the pen. He was no longer reacting. He was designing a response, and this time the foundation would be unshakable. Camille, standing beside him, prepared the next set of motions. Her presence was steady, her focus razor-sharp. For the first time in weeks, Lawrence felt something return to him, not just control but purpose. They would move forward with precision. And those who had underestimated them were about to discover just how dangerous it was to betray someone who knew how to rebuild from the ground up. Morning broke over Silver Pines Lake, casting a golden hue over the calm waters while inside the vacation home. A storm was already brewing, unseen and methodical. Patricia and Herman remained oblivious to the chaos their actions had set into motion. The prior night's wine glasses still sat on the counter, remnants of their arrogance. Lawrence Sullivan, seated in his office in Portland, reviewed the final security logs. Don Harper's team had completed their sweep. Devices were cloned, passwords reset, surveillance systems reinforced. The firm's firewalls were now locked tighter than ever. All digital pathways Herman had used to infiltrate Lawrence's professional realm were sealed shut. At 7:12 a.m., the firm's administrative system automatically revoked Herman's credentials. The notification went out quietly, no warning. Simultaneously, a cascade of alerts spread across the firm's internal network, flagging discrepancies in contracts Herman had altered. Camille Rhodes, now operating from a remote legal suite, coordinated the legal arm of the counteraction. Her staff finalized court documents, divorce proceedings, emergency custody filings, fraud complaints, and asset protection motions. The strategy was elegant in its precision. While Patricia and Herman slept, lulled by their belief in total control, Lawrence and Camille finalized a coordinated strike that would unravel months of deceit in a matter of hours. By mid-morning, Lena reported that Patricia had begun her usual routine. A spa appointment was logged into her calendar, while Herman, as always, took his coffee to the back deck to make business calls. They had no idea their communications were being monitored in real time. Every conversation they had, every arrogant assumption was documented. Don's team intercepted an outgoing call from Herman to a Singapore-based attorney. The conversation, transcribed by Camille's analyst, revealed plans to finalize asset transfers within 72 hours. Camille expedited a motion to freeze all outgoing transactions from the listed accounts. The order was signed by noon. Meanwhile, Lawrence monitored a detailed timeline Lena and Ethan had prepared. Their notes, cross-referenced with calendar entries and security footage, illustrated a pattern of behavior too consistent to ignore. Lena's attention to detail and Ethan's technical precision combined into a compelling narrative of manipulation and deceit, a narrative the court would soon receive. At 1:48 p.m., Don received confirmation that several of Herman's client files contained embedded code, digital breadcrumbs planted to siphon sensitive data. The implications were severe. Camille's team immediately alerted regulatory authorities and began compiling a formal complaint. By 2:30 p.m., the children provided a final series of annotated recordings. One showed Patricia coaching Herman on how to feign vulnerability in court. Another captured her dismissing Lawrence's parenting in front of friends. These moments, trivial to them, were invaluable in exposing the psychological tactics they'd employed. Camille submitted a comprehensive digital brief to the judge overseeing the custody petition. It included forensic analysis, annotated transcripts, and expert statements. The intent was clear: to demonstrate not only manipulation, but premeditated parental alienation, something the courts took very seriously. Lawrence watched the pieces come together. His firm was no longer under siege. His children were no longer isolated. Every fabricated lie Patricia had planted was now countered with irrefutable truth. By late afternoon, a legal courier delivered court summonses to the vacation home. Patricia, confused by the official envelope, tore it open while Herman watched. Her expression changed from smug amusement to pale disbelief as she scanned the contents. Herman reached for his phone, only to realize his service had been redirected. The firm's IT security had locked down every device associated with his credentials. Patricia's voice rose, But no one could hear her outside the insulated vacation home. Their world, so carefully crafted on half-truths and hidden motives, was beginning to implode, and they were trapped within it, unaware that every exit had already been closed. Back in Portland, Lawrence remained composed. Camille sent a single-line message. Delivery confirmed. Collapse initiated. The first domino had fallen, and the rest would follow. Not with noise and chaos, but with silence, precision, and finality. As the sun dipped below the skyline, casting long shadows over Portland and Silver Pines Lake, the final phase of Lawrence Sullivan's plan was unfolding. The response was no longer theoretical. It was active, precise, and irreversible. From digital systems to courtroom motions, every detail had been prepared, tested, and triggered. Now came the reckoning. At exactly 6 p.m., Patricia returned from her spa appointment, humming softly as she approached the vacation home. Her keycard, usually reliable, blinked red. She tried again. Nothing. Puzzled, she reached for the emergency manual key hidden in her purse, only to find it no longer worked either. Her phone showed no signal. Even the smart home app had logged her out. Moments later, Herman's car pulled into the driveway, the sleek exterior of his vehicle catching the last of the daylight. He stepped out with an expression of mild irritation, assuming a network glitch. But before either could act, a black SUV glided silently into the circular drive. From it stepped Don Harper, flanked by 2 members of his private security team. In his hands were 2 thick envelopes. Patricia rushed forward. "What's going on?" she demanded. Her voice cracked not from fear, not yet, but from disbelief. Don remained composed, his voice even. He simply extended the envelopes. Inside were divorce filings, custody orders, and a list of court-mandated asset freezes. Each document bore the unmistakable seal of the state judiciary. Along with them, Camille Rhodes had included a note, curt and razor-sharp, confirming the depth of their knowledge and the scope of their proof. No room for denial. No room for retreat. Herman's hands shook as he unfolded his own set of papers. Termination letters from the firm, notifications from regulatory agencies, and a formal warning regarding pending charges of digital fraud. An internal audit had flagged enough irregularities to justify a full federal inquiry. Before either could respond, their phones lit up with automated security alerts. All financial activity tied to their joint accounts had been frozen. Offshore holdings were flagged for investigation. Access to firm resources was revoked, and passwords invalidated. Inside the house, the smart system came to life. Every screen, the kitchen display, the living room projector, even Patricia's vanity mirror showed a preloaded video. Lena and Ethan appeared side by side, composed and calm. "By the time you see this," Lena began, "you'll already know what's happening." Ethan continued, "We chose Dad. We saw everything, recorded everything, and we've made our decision." The message looped. Every room played it on repeat. The soundtrack to their downfall wasn't loud or dramatic. It was steady, factual, undeniable. Camille, monitoring from her legal suite, confirmed the court's emergency custody order had been accepted. The children were officially under Lawrence's sole care, with Patricia barred from unsupervised contact pending a full hearing. Back in Portland, Lawrence didn't gloat. He simply moved to his next objective. The firm's systems were now entirely in his control. Herman's access trail had been documented, exposing a clear pattern of sabotage. Camille had already sent the evidence packet to law enforcement and corporate oversight boards. Don, still on site at Silver Pines Lake, oversaw the team as they changed access codes and handed Patricia and Herman formal vacate notices. A private vehicle waited to escort them away from the property, their belongings boxed, labeled, and placed in the driveway. Patricia stood stunned, her voice rising in protest as she called out threats, denial, and disbelief. But no one argued. No one raised their voice in return. The reckoning didn't come in fury, it came in silence and consequences. Lawrence watched the feed from his office as Don signaled that the house was secure. Lena sent him one final update. They were safe, calm, and ready to come home. Later that evening, Lawrence stood alone in the same room where it had all begun. The blueprints for the new cultural center lay before him, but now they sat beside something even more important: custody papers, property confirmations, and letters of support from clients who had returned once Herman was exposed. Camille arrived just before midnight with a quiet nod. All done. Court date is set. Investigations are underway. They're finished. Lawrence didn't smile. He simply exhaled. The foundation they tried to destroy had not only held, it had been rebuilt, fortified by truth and the loyalty of two children who refused to be pawns. The reckoning wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was lawful, strategic, and irreversible. And it was only the beginning of what came next. 5 years had passed since the betrayal, and the skyline of Manhattan shimmered beyond the panoramic windows of the new headquarters of Sullivan Studio Group. The building, a sleek tower of glass and steel, was Lawrence Sullivan's latest design, one he had dreamed up during the storm of his personal and professional collapse. Now, it stood as a symbol of what could rise from ruin when integrity is met with resilience. Inside, the main conference room buzzed with quiet energy. Lawrence stood at the head of the table, reviewing final renderings for the Singapore Eco-Complex, the firm's most ambitious international project to date. The floor-to-ceiling monitors displayed sustainable infrastructure blueprints, layered with holographic overlays. The room fell silent as the door opened. Lena, now 23, walked in with confident steps, her documentary crew trailing behind. The poised young woman had transformed her early experience into an acclaimed media career, launching the award-winning series Foundations of Truth, which chronicled stories of betrayal, justice, and recovery. Her first documentary, the one about her own family, had sparked national policy discussions about parental alienation and digital evidence in custody cases. "Ready to talk about rebuilding?" she asked with a smile. Lawrence returned the gesture, nodding. Always. The interview was scheduled as part of a feature for her new season. The theme: transformation through truth. The cameras adjusted focus while Lena checked her notes. She mentioned, almost in passing, that Patricia, now going by Patricia Wilson, had recently lost her final appeal to overturn the financial settlement. Her brief second marriage had ended in bankruptcy, and her modest job as a junior leasing agent in Nevada left little of her former world intact. She tried to reach out again, Lena added. Another NDA violation. She'll lose the last of her stipend next month. Lawrence remained calm. He no longer felt anger, only distance. The woman who once tried to erase him had, in the end, erased herself from everything that mattered. In the adjoining office, Ethan, now 18, was preparing his latest cybersecurity keynote. His YouTube channel, Strategic Signals, had surpassed 6 million subscribers. What began as gaming live streams had evolved into full-blown educational breakdowns of real-world fraud, betrayal patterns, and digital defense. His catchphrase, "Every betrayal leaves a footprint," had become a mantra in corporate security circles. Don Harper, now head of a global security consultancy, continued to work closely with both Lawrence and Ethan. His sister's legacy lived on through new industry protocols, many of which bore her name. Camille Rhodes, now Camille Sullivan, stepped into the room just as the interview began. She and Lawrence had married quietly 2 years earlier, choosing to blend their personal and professional lives in a way that honored what they had survived. Camille had returned to architectural law, heading the firm's international division and ensuring every contract reflected the integrity they had fought to reclaim. Together, they had also launched the Sullivan Foundation for Family Justice, a nonprofit supporting children caught in manipulative custody battles. The foundation offered legal aid, digital safety training, and educational grants. Lena was on the board. Ethan developed their data tracking systems. The interview continued. Lena asked her father what rebuilding really meant. "It's about more than blueprints and materials," Lawrence said. "It's about values. It's about making sure the next generation sees that strength comes from truth, not pretense." As the filming wrapped, the family gathered in the central lounge overlooking the city. Lena adjusted her camera gear while Ethan showed Camille his next system design. Lawrence watched them all, feeling the quiet, complete satisfaction of a life reclaimed. Across the country, Patricia watched a short clip of the interview from a coworker's phone. Her apartment was small, her options limited. She had told too many lies, signed too many forms, and burned too many bridges. There were no cameras in her living room, no eyes turned toward her voice. In a federal prison near Denver, Herman Knox sat in the inmate library, flipping through a magazine that featured the Sullivan Foundation's latest community initiative. His parole was denied for the third time. Too many red flags, too little remorse. That night, back in Manhattan, the Sullivan family returned to the place where it had all begun, the redeveloped property at Silver Pines Lake. The house had been completely renovated. Ethan's tech hub now occupied the great room. Lena's editing studio filled the master suite. The rest of the space was minimal and intentional, nothing retained from the days of deception. A final scene played out on Lena's screen. Her documentary team had stitched together a quiet montage. A father holding his daughter's graduation cap, a brother teaching cybersecurity at a youth camp, a woman once betrayed, now leading global reform. The message was clear. Some betrayals tear down what was never strong to begin with. But others, the ones that cut deepest, can become the foundation for something indestructible. Lawrence looked out across the lake, Camille's hand in his children at his side. From the ruins, they had built something no betrayal could ever shake again.